For some reason, they don't kick me off for talking about YouTube on TikTok, which is odd. You'd think they'd be fiercely defensive of their shitty little platform. Chi Mama. That's an interesting name. It's interesting to watch people's names, just sort of watch these things scroll past. DJ, how you doing? Yeah, there are some really interesting names on here people come up with. Kind of gives you a sense of how straight and narrow they are, or how crazy they might be. How did we do before the close today? Silver's up 2%. That's not bad. Yeah, it's up. All right, it's up 10% on the month, which is good because it's just been sort of wagging along, doing its thing. Over the last 100 years, it's up 6,130%. 6,000%. 1,000%'s a 10 bagger. That's very unusual in the stock market, but it hit 34 in 1979. Isn't that crazy? Hit $34. And then it didn't hit $34 again until just recently. It was, 2013. And then it didn't hit it again until 2025. The strange thing is, if you look at where $34 is back in 1979, you play that out to now, it's equivalent to $154. So, but I did something fun. I did some reverse engineering on inflation because I wanted to see, like, okay, what are we talking about as far as inflation? Did a little reverse engineering, and nope, no redheads tonight. Did a little reverse engineering, and it turns out that if you had about $8 million, $8.4 million, that's the equivalent of having $1 million back in 1970. So to have the equivalent of $1 million, then you'd have to have $8.4 million now. So I thought, well, that's because of inflation. So let's look and see if silver actually does keep up with inflation. So I looked, and silver was $1.57 average for the whole year. And so you buy $1 million worth of silver back then, would it actually be worth $8 million now? And no, it actually wouldn't be worth $1 million or $8 million. It would be worth $45 million. That's more than just keeping up with inflation. If you just adjusted $1 million for inflation, it comes out to 8.4. But if you just put it into silver, it would be 45 million now. Huh. Well, isn't that special? That means that silver is not just a hedge against inflation. It means it's a hell of a good investment. Now, if you bought the average home back then, $25,000, actually it was from 17 to 23. Between 17 and 23 over the course of the year, was what it cost for a new home then. I know a lot of you will be saying, well, it's different. Houses are so much better now. No, that's not how it works. You may have a better house in terms of insulation or your ability to keep it cool, but it's going to be on a lot that is probably half or a quarter of the size of a lot back then. It will be made with some pretty damn cheap materials compared to 1970. So there are some things about it that are very different. My point is that, let's call it 20 grand for argument's sake. Back then, you made about $9,000 a year. So it'd take you a little over 2 years of your salary to buy a house. Now they say that the average is 50 something, 56,000, 57,000. And the average house is $405,000, down from 420 about a year ago. Yes, the housing market is collapsing. Like I said, it was going to, and everybody said, no, it's not going to happen, man. The housing market's going to be great. It's a hard asset. No, it's a hard asset. Yes, that much is true. But it's a hard asset that is wildly overpriced. Now, will it be a fantastic asset to buy after it drops by 40%? Yes. If it drops by 30 to 40% across the board everywhere in the United States, and then on top of that, you get rate cuts so that you can get a 2-3% mortgage, yes, then absolutely. Fantastic real estate market. Jump right in. Right now, you'd be crazy. I just saw, I want to say it was Pulte, because they're the largest home builders in the country. They've got a really nice sort of semi-custom area just north of Austin, Texas. Super hot market there. And that area, they built these beautiful homes. They're brand new. They were looking for 800. I want to say, if I remember correctly, it was 879. And they had cut the prices to 450. Now, I heard that from a guy that I watch and I study, but I had a hard time with that. I just thought that just sounds too much. That's too big. That's about a 50% cut. That's too much. So I went and checked, went to Pulte, went to their subsidiary there in Austin, and looked right on the website. Sure as shit, he was not exaggerating. They literally cut the cost of the price of these new homes by hundreds of thousands of dollars. 875. What was that? So I'm not sure what you're thinking in that humidity. What the hell are we talking about there? Woo! What humidity are you referring to? I live in Arizona. We don't have that thing that you speak of. The Philippines is definitely humid. I lived there, and it was humid. It's the best word for it. Humid. Very, very humid. Oh, by the way, some comments were filtered. Okay. And then it says some comments in this live were filtered to protect the community's experience. Your experience is very important to TikTok. They want you to have a pleasant experience. I didn't know what 875 meant either. I was kind of wondering what the heck is that about? Doesn't make any sense. Analyzing housing market and inflation. Yes, we are. We are doing that. And it's not looking good. It is definitely not looking good right now. just based on, and by the way, I spent the entire afternoon just basically wasting my time going over consumer price index and the CPI as we call it, as opposed to what's really going on in the world. It's so hard to really get to the truth anymore. What you have to do is you have to look at a dozen different sources, and then you have to figure out what none of them are saying. Because nobody wants to say what's actually happening here. Nobody wants to go out on a limb. You've got the mainstream media, which is now really like cut right down the middle. You've got the half that is owned by the Ellisons, very close personal friends to Benjamin Netanyahu and the extreme Israeli lobby. And then you've still got the other half, which is extreme liberal, Rachel Madcow, crazy PMS NBC lunatics who, have absolutely zero common sense. It's a real shit show out there. So my job is to sort through all that bullshit and tell you guys what's really going on. It's what they don't say that's the problem. Exactly. So one of the things that they don't talk about all of the things that they have to remove from the CPI in order to get it lower. And by the way, let's just back up for a second, because I there's enough new people that those of you who have been listening for a while, this. But if you're new and you haven't been listening to me, this is something that most people never talk about, but it's the basic core principle of our entire system, nation, internationally, everything. And that is that inflation is good. Inflation is only good for debtors. It's only good for people who can borrow enormous amounts of money and then pay it back at a deflated rate. Inflation causes their money to be worth less when they pay it back. So I'll give you an example, if I borrow $100 million from you and then I pay you back 30 years from now, that $100 million, it's not $100 million anymore. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a perfect example. Right now, if you have $100,000, in 20 years, you're going to need $240,000, basically $250,000 to buy exactly the same thing that you could buy now for $100,000. So put your money in a mutual fund, make a few percent, right? I make 8% annually. No, you don't. No, I make 8%. No, you don't. Because you're going to pay tax on that. So take the taxes off the top and then take whatever you think you made and subtract inflation from it. So now what are you making? Well, if inflation, the real inflation, because they're saying the core inflation right now is only like 3%, 3.5%. 3.5%? Okay. So you lose 3.5% to inflation, and you lose 3.5% to 4% because of taxes. So if you make 8%, you don't make shit. You don't make anything. If your money is in the bank right now, in some monster certificate of deposit, a CD, and you're making a whopping 3%, you're losing money every single day. Every morning when you wake up, you have less money than you did yesterday in real terms. It's not some hypothetical, if come maybe sort of, no, you're losing money every day, period. Now, let's go back to what we talked about before. If you have a real hard asset that is of value, not these things, because you have to remember these can just be printed up out of thin air. These are meaningless now. Then the more they print, the more billions of these, trillions of these they print, the less each one's worth. Well, what's backing these? Oh, the full faith and the full faith and strength of our government. What does that mean? Well, the full faith of our government should mean something, right? Who exactly has faith in our government anymore? Now, you may be a MAGA person and go, well, I believe everything the president says. Good for you. And does the president have the ability to change everything whenever he wants by himself? No. Did he enact all those tariffs so that we don't have to pay personal income taxes? No. Do we have to pay them back? Yeah. But wait, do you get paid back the money that you spent extra on tariffs? No. But it's like $180 billion or something. What happens to the money that we had to pay? Well, fuck it. Just shut up. It's not a big deal. Oh, okay. So I'm still supposed to have full faith and confidence in our government. Sorry, I just don't anymore. Too many lies, too many scams, too many, we never anticipated that. Look, if I got a 6-year-old that can anticipate something that the Federal Reserve and the Treasury can't anticipate, we have a problem. So when they said that all the stimmies from COVID would not create inflation, it was absolutely impossibly irreversible that we would have inflation. Anybody who understood even the basic economic principles of our system would go, no, you can't just print trillions of dollars and dump it straight into the system. I mean, it's just going to blow up. Everything's going to be costing a ton more. No, that's not going to happen. That's what they told us. Remember that. They looked us in the eye and they said, Janet Yellen said, nope. Steve Mnuchin said, nope. Okay. Go back and look at my videos from 2021. They're still up. And I'm saying, liar, pants on fire. We're going to have big time inflation. And it hit 9%. I also said, as soon as they start to raise rates, we're going to have an economic collapse of the stock market. Well, it only went down by 30-something% over the course of the next year, but I nailed it. It's super simple if you just take the time to learn it. Now, most of you have jobs and you don't have 4, 5, 6 years to study economic principles. You're not going to do that. You don't have time. That's on purpose. The reason that they're running us to death on a little hamster wheel is because they don't want us to study. They don't want us to be aware of what's going on. They want us to be desperate and just trying to catch up. Okay. Well, you know what? Eventually, that's going to break. That system has to break at some point. Not yet, unfortunately, but it will break at some point. Now, let's take a look and see what is happening. By the way, we won the war. Just saying, thought in case you were wondering, I mean, yeah, there's shots are being fired, but it's believe the president of the United States said they're trifling a bit with us. They're trifling a bit with us. I'll be darned. That's an interesting way of saying they're shooting at us. Who owns stocks? Oh, by the way, yeah, everybody who wants a big, huge AI center, they're getting them. All of these county commissions and all of these water boards and energy board, they're all as crooked as a dog's hind leg. That none of them are saying no. None of them. They are just all getting exactly what they want. Everybody that wants a data center is getting their data center. Doesn't matter if it's in the middle of a desert and there's no water. Hey, you know what? People can drink the recycled water from our data center. I'm sure it's probably fairly clean. By the way, in West Virginia, in case you were wondering, because nobody gives two shits about West Virginia anymore because it's so destroyed. But in case you're wondering, yes, they're destroying it some more. There are some mine collapses, implosions, explosions, whatever they call it, where they basically fill the mines with water. They empty them out, and then they suck all the gas out. They burn the gas up into the air, and then they get to claim that they're cleaning up the environment. Exactly how it works, I'm not sure, but I can tell you this. When they flood those mines, one of the things that they're doing is they're taking all the toxic chemicals that they brought into the mines, all the byproducts, and they're pushing them into the aquifer. And there are videos coming out of West Virginia that are just fucking heartbreaking, man. I mean, this toxic sludge is just oozing out of cliff faces all over, running into people's streams. They're talking to people in the street, and it's like, oh yeah, my mom died of cancer last year. My sister's got cancer. My wife's got breast cancer. It's like, wow. But don't worry about that. Let's talk about global warming, or no, global climate change. It's like, wait, what about global poisoning? No, we don't talk about that. Why not? Because we can't blame that on cow farts and your car. Oh, I see. I'm not really worried about the eyesore part as much as I'm worried about the fact that those data centers are going to suck up all the water that idiots like me need to drink. So that's not good. That's not a good thing. But again, what what's the outcome of all this going to be? I'm very interested. I'm very interested to see what the next 12 months hold for AI and the AI bubble. Because they're building all these data centers because AI. And AI is going to change everything. And I've been watching very carefully. As you all know, I've been watching AI. It's been very troubling to me that AI could reach super intelligence and destroy us all. But I'm beginning to smell bullshit. Like really deep bullshit. I'm starting to think that these companies are exaggerating the shit out of what they can do and what AI can do. I'm starting to think this is all a big scam because everybody's putting hundreds of billions of dollars into these AI centers everywhere. Oh, build another one. Okay, but don't we have, no, you got to have more data centers. For what? Don't ask stupid questions like for what? Just put money into it. Okay, so NVIDIA, how much are you making? A little bit. Huh? Sorry, I didn't hear that. And you start really digging into these stocks, and it's like, wait a minute. Everybody's spending hundreds of billions of dollars, but who's making money? Well, the smaller companies downstream that are building the centers, the construction companies, they're all making money. Yeah, but what about the people at the very top? What about them? What about open AI? Well, no, they've never actually made any money. Never made any money, huh? No, never made any money. But they're going to. Well, yeah, they're going to have to raise another $200 billion right now, though, because they're going to do this other thing. Okay. But then they're going to make money. Oh, yeah. And nobody's questioning this yet. Just dump money in. You can't lose. Boy, have I heard that shit before. I have heard that before. I heard it in 87. I heard it in 91. I heard it in 97 and 2000. I heard it in 06, 07. I didn't hear it as much at the end of 08. But that's okay because I had already gotten out of the market and started telling people to not buy any real estate. Back in 2006, I said that. And they told me I was crazy. In 08, I told them to get out of the stock market before it collapsed, and they said I was crazy. By 2009, nobody called me crazy anymore. Go figure. So this is going to be a very interesting time because I'm not convinced that AI and all these data centers are bullshit and we're over investing in it, but I'm starting to lean that way. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, private equity, they are way up shit creek right now. BlackRock even is showing some major cracks. Well, you know, the thing about Tesla that it makes it hard to dog is, you know, I live in a pretty nice neighborhood. I'll count 30 Teslas on my way to drop my kid off at the Boys and Girls Club. 30 of them. We'll see 4 or 5 of them at each light. That sounds like a pretty successful car company if you think about it. Like, at some point, there's going to be some money there. So I don't talk shit about Tesla. And, of course, if he does all of his robotics under the Tesla flagship, then, yeah, he will have the company itself will have the highest value of any corporation ever in history. Probably, I would feel comfortable saying that his company, once these Optimus robots start to roll out, within a few years, he will have the same worth as the S&P 500 index combined. He said it, and I believe it. It will be the biggest product ever. Every single person in the world will want one. You'd have to be insane to not want your own personal robot. Yeah, I get it. Everybody's afraid, oh, my robot's going to kill me. It's going to be like iRobot. You ain't Will Smith. That's not what's going to happen. China has companies that are not way ahead. They say they're way ahead. That's propaganda. They're not actually way ahead. I will say this, though. DeepSeek is going to do very well. They're getting $200 billion from the Chinese government today. I think they're actually going to raise more than that, though. A lot more. The Chinese have very, very, very big problems now. We've taken away all their energy. All right, let's see here. right. Well, hello. Can't wait for a robot and get rid of my wife. Yeah, that's probably not going to work, though. It's probably not going to work because somebody has got to tell you that you're lazy and worthless and get off the couch right now. And don't leave your coffee cup on the coffee table. Go rinse it out. Let's see here. An ancient indigenous settlement unearthed near Sturgeon Lake in Saskatchewan is challenging long-held views about early human presence in North America. Clovis first, which is total bullshit, by the way. Yes, now. Don't ever forget that. If your wife doesn't say now, she doesn't actually mean it. It's more of a suggestion than a command. And we all know how those go. Let's see. Dating to around 11,000 years ago. You know, I really hate it when people are stupid. That does not rewrite shit. It doesn't rewrite anything. And the reason it doesn't is because Clovis first says that the first people in the United States were here 12,500 years ago in Clovis, New Mexico. That's not true. It's not even close. There are remains of people and footprints and all kinds of shit from 10, 12, 30, 50,000 years before that. These idiots found something 11,000 years old, which is not even close to as old as Clovis, which would mean that it is totally irrelevant. I mean, it's nice. Hey, look, people were here 11,000 years ago. Yeah, we knew that. Everybody knew that. It's sad. They actually made it seem, they got me excited. They made it sound like it was going to be awesome. Like they actually made a discovery. The Trump administration opens the first batch of UAP, UFO, BFD, who gives a shit files. That's the problem with lying to us. Man was found in Ice Age. You're probably talking about Utsi. But yeah, we've actually found remains going back 290,000 years in Morocco. We've got lots of remains from the Levant, which show that we lived with Neanderthals, as are, shall we say, friends with benefits, for 60,000 years. Hello, Bridget or Brigitte. I can't really tell from the first. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I guess Bridget and Brigitte are spelled exactly the same way. It just depends on whether or not you have hairy armpits and wear deodorant as to how you pronounce them. Look, I'm not saying that the French stink, because they don't. The Parisians do. But the thing is, when it comes to not liking the French, I love the French. Not necessarily Parisians, but then the Parisians don't even like the French. And the French don't like Parisians. Irish, okay. Well, then it's Bridget. Definitely Bridget. China, let's see, buys gold 18 months straight, adds, damn, 8.1 million tons. That's a lot. 8 million tons of gold it's more than I own. A little bit more. Tiny bit. Okay. The race for power is going off grid. Okay. I'm not going to even click on that. I'm not buying the bullshit. Sporadic clashes in the Strait of Hormuz after U.S. attacks and disables two Iran vessels trying to breach blockade. As ceasefire breaking down, Tehran confirms it's still reviewing the U.S. peace proposal. That was as of 8 o'clock this morning. Oh, God. Let's see. The Department of Energy removes enriched uranium from Venezuela and Japan. That's interesting that they had enriched uranium in Venezuela. Not exactly a global superpower and or threat. But then again, how enriched was it? Was it enriched to 15%, 30%, 60%, or the magic number 90%? Because if it's 90%, that's weapons grade uranium. Then now you could start making some big boom booms with that. 30% is what the Iranians have. Is Marco Rubio the new heir apparent to Trump? Please, God, no. Please, no. That can't be. 60, huh? So what I said? That might be right, because they're at 30 now. Is 60% enriched uranium dangerous? Well, I can tell you this, the rose uranium is not dangerous. Is 60% enriched uranium weapons grade? No. But it's a very short technical step away from the 90% threshold required by nuclear weapons. Okay, so it is 90. Okay, I see what I did wrong there. Iran has 60%, not 30%, but their 60% enriched uranium is 30% away from being 90%. Got it. Now I understand. Okay. So let's see here. Let's take a look and see what else is going on. All I can tell you is that things are getting really crazy. Oh yeah, deep state. Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, there are times when I get numbers wrong as well, but usually pretty good. Usually, if I read the numbers, if I'm paying attention. Oh, let's see. We're ending the days of hiding fraud. Besant goes after dark money in nonprofits. That's bullshit. Nonprofits are the way that the wealthy Epstein class moves money around. Huh. Okay. I'll 120 quadrillion tokens monthly by 2030. Goldman's deep dive into the coming agentic economy. I'm going to have to look at that. Who's going to be the next LA mayor? Please, anybody. Just go down to Venice Beach and grab some dude that's playing the bongo drums off the beach. Tell him, look, dude, if you can cut back to 1/8 of weed a day, we will make you the governor. Anybody's better than these bozos that are in there now. And by the way, wow, the LA fires, they exposed something very interesting. What happens when you're too successful for too long? You become wildly inept at what you do, because what you do is nothing. What you do is you simply sit in the saddle, you hold the reins, and don't do anything, and let the horse take you home, because it knows the way better than you do. But, what happens if it gets spooked and runs off the trail? Well, you're screwed. And that's exactly what happened with the LA fires. Something different happened. Oh my God, what? Well, it wasn't an earthquake. What do you mean it wasn't an earthquake? That's all we're prepared for. Yeah, this was different. Okay, like what? Oh, we had a fire. Okay. Well, fires all the way around Los Angeles all the time. No, this one was actually in LA. Oh, that's different. I was there that day, by the way. No, I had nothing to do with it. But I actually went out to Los Angeles, and I remember being in Orange County, luckily. And as I was driving back in the afternoon, I couldn't help but notice that it was very hazy. And when I got to just about Riverside, I noticed that the haze had kind of stopped. And I thought, all right, I'll turn on the radio. And that's when I found out that LA was on fire. Kind of a shocking revelation. I used to live right where those fires were. Right there. Literally, I wouldn't be surprised if the old house I used to live in wasn't there anymore. I didn't check because I don't really care. But apparently there's been a lot of fraud since then. Who would have guessed that? Who could have guessed there'd be fraud and insurance fraud and all kinds of stuff going on? The return of irrational exuberance. Greenspan would recognize this. Boy, I got to tell you, what an asshole that guy was, huh? Everybody thought that Alan Greenspan was going to make the economy continue to go up in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. Is there an aquifer underneath LA? There's a couple of rivers that run east of LA, but nothing that I know of that runs under LA, which, they have reservoirs they should have had filled up. Well, I would not call what we have here a civilized country anymore. There are civilized people in this country, but there are also incredibly uncivilized people in this country now. And, is it half? No. 25%? Not even close. It's probably 5% of this population is really, really out of control, uncivilized, has no use for common decency, dignity, whatever. But it just seems to be something that nobody's willing to do anything about yet. So, well, the problem with that, Jimmy, is that some of the worst of them can't be gotten out. They were born here. They've lived here all their lives, and you owe them. No, it's really not. If you look at the amount of illegal immigrants that are causing these problems, it's relatively small because a lot of illegals don't want to get caught and deported. So they keep their nose clean. There are a lot of people who were born in this country who feel that everybody owes them something. It's only about 6% of the total population that fits that category, and not even all of them. It's probably only half of them, But McDonald's just announced that they will no longer have self-serve sodas. They can't. Because there are a group of people in the United States that literally take water cups every single chance they get, and they fill them up with soda. I saw one guy who rode his bicycle into McDonald's. He was literally sitting on a mountain bike and filling up a gallon container with orange soda. When the employees asked him to stop, he yelled a couple of expletives at them and kept filling up his. And what are you going to do? Call the police? Hey, there's a guy who's filling up orange juice. Really? Because there's another guy 2 blocks down who's shooting somebody. We're going to take care of that. So, unfortunately, there are different what's the word I'm looking for? In the world, there are very, very different ideas, depending on where you are, about what constitutes society and societal norms. Some of the people in this country, they have no use for that whatsoever. Well, the crime's been out of control, but the one thing that I would say is really interesting, nobody wants to talk about this, of course. Nobody will ever talk about this because it is, in a way, it's very sad. But the two things that made violent crime around the country drop dramatically from the 90s till now, there are two things, actually. Number one, people born after leaded gasoline was no longer legal. After a few years of that leaded tetraethyl lead being flushed into the ground so that it wasn't floating around in the atmosphere like it was when I was a kid, and you weren't breathing it constantly because there was no more leaded gasoline, all of a sudden they noticed that violent crime started to drop precipitously. Everywhere that tetraethyl lead was banned. But then there's another part of this that is really hard for some people to talk about, and that is that 18 years, almost to the day that abortion was legalized, you see another drop in crime rates. It starts 12, 15 years after, but then at 18, it starts to really drop. And over the course of time, you see that there was a big drop. And it led some sociologists to say, okay, well, maybe the children that weren't born, that would have been born and then abused badly because they were totally unwanted, maybe they didn't grow up to be career criminals. The Charlie Manson types, whose mom obviously had no use for him whatsoever. That kind of outcome was not what anybody expected, but you see that the outcome is there. I mean, when you factor in the end of breathing in lead, which clearly affects IQ, decision making, impulse control. I mean, so many things in the central nervous system are controlled by whether or not you have lead poisoning. It's almost like mercury, where it's like, you're mad as a hatter. Well, it's because hat makers used to use mercury and it drove them crazy. So was it one or the other or both? We don't know. They fought for years to keep lead in gasoline, of course. And the guy who actually came up with tetraethyl lead absolutely said that there was clearly no health risks to tetraethyl lead whatsoever. As a matter of fact, he went on stage and he drank a glass of it. He did. He took the next 9 months off because he was almost killed by it. But he didn't know that at the time, or he wouldn't have done it, obviously. But it almost killed him. The lead poisoning was so severe that he spent 6 months basically in a lawn chair outside of a resort trying to recover from drinking that shit. I mean, these are some of the issues with modern medicine, but it is what it is. They figured out that the lead got into everything, everywhere. So that plus women not having children that they didn't want, that they desperately didn't want, led to the crime rate dropping, violent crimes anyway, dropping tremendously in the United States. There's still a lot of crime, but I remember the 90s. I remember when murders hit like 3,000 in LA in 1991, 92, something like that. It was right in there. And it was just, it was the same time frame as the riots. Different year, but same time frame. CIA leak. Iran can survive a blockade another 3 to 4 months, maybe longer. And it still has 70% of its pre-war inventory of missiles. Yeah, the Bloods and the Crips were a huge reason, and that's why most of those the murders went unsolved that year. Lead paint protected the inside of your house from being surveilled with today's technology. All right, I can believe that. I also believe that as long as you probably didn't eat the paint chips, you were fine. I don't see how having lead in the paint could affect you. Putting it into the fuel of your car, lighting that fuel on fire, compressing it, and then exploding it out the tailpipe of your car into the atmosphere in the form of a brown haze, that could actually affect you. Whether it was through just rubbing your eyes and rubbing it in, or breathing it in and getting it into your lungs, or whether it got all over your skin. The reality is that a lot of kids got lead poisoning, and it led to some really insane things happening. Let's see. American consumers have never been less confident. Okay, well, that's a pretty good sign right there. U.S. jobs jumped 115,000, smashing estimates. Unemployment rate unchanged at 4.3%. We've got to make 180,000 jobs a month just to keep up with the job market. I don't see who the hell's celebrating 115,000. Oh, it's 115,000 increase. Okay, now that would be a little different. All right, so yeah, so we're at 200,000, and then and then they revise it down. Of course, they do that every month. They lie and then they revise it down later. Well, this is probably the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Let's see. Today's NFP report. Yeah, it's BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, is who put that out. So they'll revise it down later when nobody's looking. They always do. You know how it is. They always lie. Apparently, there's going to be a ceasefire for the next 3 days between Ukraine and Russia. Very, very smart there, Zelensky. Because Zelensky last week shot his mouth off and talked about how they were going to make sure that they had no, quarter. There was no resting during this celebration, and Putin said basically, well, through his government, Putin said, we're going to have a Victory Day parade, and if you fuck with us, you will never, ever, ever see the light of day again. And I believe that. Yeah. Well, of course it's Russia's idea for the parade. It's a big deal for them. The 9th is their Victory Day and their Independence Day and everything. It's like our July 4th. And the fact that Zelensky was suggesting that they should not be allowed to have a parade and that he might take advantage of that to use drones to strike their parade. It's like, ugh. I don't understand. I honestly don't understand why you would poke the bear like that, because clearly Putin has been very careful about not allowing this to get out of hand and become a full-on total war. And the reason I think he's done that is because he doesn't want the United States to get directly involved. And he knows that we were just waiting for an excuse. Now we've kind of got our hands full. Matthew, I would say that you might be surprised. You might be very surprised. You've got a country with 175 million people fighting a country of 11 million. It's like Iran. Oh, we're just going to go in there and bomb Iran and they're going to give up in, the first day. No, they're not. The United States of America has been lying to all of us constantly, pathologically, for decades about our opponents. Now, 10 years ago, was Russia ready to fight? Nope. Absolutely not. They were a mess. They were trying to rebuild. They were just barely getting their shit together a little bit, just basically trying to stabilize. After what happened with Ukraine, where they went in to take that 20% strip away and say, no, these are ethnic Russians. You can't kill these people anymore. And then we just all of a sudden went from, hey, it's up to you. You do whatever you guys want. We're not going to get involved, to, oh my God, what have you done? Yeah, we're going to get involved. Putin was caught very off guard by that. And I think it made the Russians realize that we will never be their friends. They can never trust us with anything. So they went balls to the wall onto a war footing. And now they are very much on a war footing. And they have a massive amount of tanks and a massive amount of artillery and a massive amount of missiles. And they have fifth and sixth generation fighters that are as good as ours. And it's amazing because, you talk to people all the time in the United States that are like, there's no way. They can't possibly hit. Really? Name the most intelligent people on Earth by IQ. Proven over and over and over. Russian Jews. Oh. And who do you think builds their aircraft? Well, they're definitely Russians. It's probably a smattering of Jewish people in there too. And so the idea that we are the only ones that have air superiority, Jesus Christ, Clem, I can't believe that your timing is that bad. They don't have air superiority? Really? That's amazing that you buy the bullshit that much. But of course, I can see that you've got a Ukrainian flag, so I understand why you don't want to. The reality is this. Ukraine lost this war on day one, and the fact that the international community, and especially Europe, has allowed this to go on while Ukrainians keep dying is, in my opinion, kind of like a little bit like genocide. I mean, would Ukraine have stopped this war on, say, day 2? Well, in week 3, Zelensky and Putin had a peace deal. Now, I'm not saying that. That's not some liberal bullshit media. That's the former president of Israel who was in charge of mediating that deal. And he said that Zelensky and Putin had both agreed to a peace agreement. Done. Hey, war's over. Look, you guys are so fucking bananas about that small strip, 20%, the Donbass region, etc. That it's all ethnic Russians anyway, and it's causing us a huge amount of problems because they're not ethnic Ukrainians, they're ethnic Russians. And nobody in Ukraine likes fucking Russians. We don't like them. We hate them. Okay, well then take that. Draw a line in the sand and say it's all ethnic Russians on this side. As a matter of fact, we're going to let them vote as Russians from now on. Okay, good. That was done. That was over with. And then Boris Johnson shows up in Kiev out of nowhere and tells Zelensky, if you sign this fucking agreement, the United States of America and England and all of NATO will turn their back on you forever. And then Putin can do whatever he wants because he'll know that we will absolutely never come to your rescue again. So don't sign that deal. And that is what the former president of Israel said. He said that NATO and the United States destroyed that peace deal that was on week 3 of the Ukrainian war. I saw him say it myself. It's not like, oh, I couldn't figure out how it. No, I saw the former president of Israel saying that, and he was pissed. Because it makes us billions and billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. Our tax money goes directly to all of the companies in the United States that make weapons. They make the weapons and then they send the weapons over to Ukraine. The Ukrainians then use up the weapons and come back to us and say, we need more. We then take more tax money, your money, to build another weapon that they go blow up. Once it's blown up, that's it. We need another. Come on, guys, keep forking over that tax money. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why are we paying for the weapons? Well, fuck, Ukraine can't pay for them. They don't have enough money. Okay, but they don't have enough money. Well, what about Europe? Europe's kind of broke too. They don't really have enough money either. Okay, so the United States has to pay for it. Yeah. out of tax dollars. Yeah. That would normally go to what? Like feeding poor kids at school. Dumb shit like that. Like, all these stupid programs like building new roads, updating our 80-year-old power grid that is about to fail completely. So we're going to send that to Ukraine instead. Well, no, we're not sending the money to Ukraine. I mean, yeah, we're going to send $100 billion. And Zelensky said he only got half that money. He doesn't know what happened to the other half. He has no idea. He swears he never saw it. So wherever it broke down between the United States and Ukraine, he didn't touch it. And the funny part is, I believe him, because he really didn't look happy when he found out the number. And he was like, we never got that money. We, the government, never got that money. Wait, are you saying that there are Ukrainians that are corrupt? I would have never guessed that. I mean, I know that it's been called the most corrupt country on earth for 50 years, but I thought they were joking. I thought it was just a joke. Clem, come on. You know that's not true, right? We haven't given nearly as much as Biden did, but we've still been giving aid to Ukraine. It's just not enough. And the reason it's not enough is because, right, look, the reason it's not enough, Clem, is because you guys were only there to pump up our weapons companies, to make us money. Nobody gives a fuck about Ukraine. Nobody gives a shit about Ukraine. Nobody cares. And, I hate to say it that way, but the reality is, what's the difference between Ukrainian babies and Palestinian babies? Maybe a few shades of skin color, maybe a few freckles and some blue eyes. But other than that, it's all irrelevant to the United States government. Okay? These are people that are above giving a fuck about children or the elderly or whether or not you're a good country, whatever that means. They don't care. So first it was Afghanistan, and we were pumping money into the, what we would jokingly call sand people behind their back. And then when we found out that Ukraine was about to go off, we literally dropped everything right where it was and left everything in Afghanistan. Didn't even pick up a single weapon and said, fuck it, leave it there. We're out of here. Why? Well, because that was November. And in February, Russia invaded Ukraine. And we knew they were going to invade. What are we, stupid? We've got fucking satellites that can literally read a Titleist golf ball from space. We knew exactly what they were doing. We saw them amassing. And we said, oh, shit, it is going to go off. They are going to. Finally, Putin's been bitching about this for 8 years, trying to get the Ukrainians to stop killing ethnic Russian women and children. And it's not going to happen because, look, the Jewish guy who's in charge of Ukraine doesn't have a lot of pull with the Nazis. Go figure. And it's sad because it's like, well, wait a minute. Zelensky can't control them? No, of course not. They literally told Zelensky, you keep your mouth shut, you stay over there, or else. It's like, wait a minute, the militias have that much power? Yeah, they sure do, because they were really brutal. Like, they are a fighting force it's not a joke. Like, they would rival the Bosnians as far as bloodthirstiness. They don't take prisoners. If you don't leave the village, if you know they're coming and you don't leave that village and give it to them, that's fine, but don't think they're going to allow you to survive. They're not. They hate Russians. So if you're a Russian child, you're still a Russian. They're going to cut your throat. Well, obviously, Putin's watching this and going, hey, Zelensky, look, these are ethnic Russians. I know you hate them, and I know they live in Ukraine. They do. They're Russians living in Ukraine. So what are you going to deport them all? No, they've been there for 300 years. Oh, God. Well, ask the Irish in Northern Ireland how that works. I mean, it's just a fucking mess. It's just a mess. But we exploited it. And the reason that you guys don't get any weapons now is because we found somebody better. We found somebody better. Oh, and the fact is that the president of the United States is absolutely shitting his pants, terrified of Israel, as he should be. As he should be. Because they gave him a golden pager as a gag gift. Not much of a gag gift, if you ask me. They used pagers to murder their enemies, and then they gave my president a golden pager. Hey, welcome to office. So just remember who controls the other end of that pager. And it's just, it is what it is, man. It's a mess. But again, it boils down to people who have absolutely no concern about children, about women, about, any of that stuff. None of that stuff bothers them. They're above that. Free Palestine. That's funny. That will absolutely never happen. That'll never happen. There is not a free Palestine now, and there will never be a free Palestine. And if Israel and Turkey go to war, which is the only outcome I can see, if the Israelis keep killing the Lebanese for no reason. You have to understand Hezbollah exists because of Israel invading Lebanon. And every time the Israelis start to take over more occupied territory, Hezbollah gets all pissy. If Israel stopped trying to steal everyone else's land around them by force, which they're doing right in front of us, it's not misinformation. You can go on YouTube and watch hundreds of videos. We went to war with Iran. The only reason we went to war with Iran was for Israel. We said that publicly. We did it for Israel. And in the last month, and this is documented, I just watched something on CBN about this, a Christian broadcasting network. Since the war started, the amount of attacks by Israelis on Christians has skyrocketed. What? Wait, we're fighting a war for you, and you're kicking and hitting and spitting on Christians in Israel. You think that's funny? I don't understand that at all, but that's exactly what's happening. The funny part is even the Christian broadcast network, CBN, didn't have the balls to call it what it is. They didn't call it assault and battery. They called it hitting attacks. People spitting on Christians in Israel and hitting attacks have gone up. And I said, I literally made a comment and I said, in my country, we call that battery. When you hit somebody, we don't call it a hitting attack. We call that battery. You go to jail for that. But apparently in Israel, if you're Jewish and you're just beating up on a Christian, well, you don't get in trouble for that. What? You get arrested, right? Nope. Well, what about the Muslims? I would love to just have all the Christians just get out of there, guys. Just leave the Middle East. Leave your homes. Leave the Middle East. And let the Jews and the Muslims have at it. Put up an octagon around all of it. Put up a huge 20,000-mile octagon all the way around the Middle East, and then just ding, 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 ring the bell and let them just annihilate each other. That's it. You both have religions of violence and anger and hatred. All right, and the best part is they call it justice. Just have at it, guys. You guys hate each other that much? Fine with me. My religion, we don't hate anybody. It doesn't mean we have to like you either. We can just decide to stay away from you. But of course, that is a bit of an issue because, strangely enough, the governments seem to want to push us together with people who hate us. Yeah. I'm just reading some of the comments from YouTube too. Yeah, by the way, somebody mentioned buying oil. I would not mess with anything over weekends right now. Yeah, the United Kingdom is an interesting experiment. I feel like, to me, it feels like some group inside the government is trying to destroy England from the inside out. They're trying to tear that nation down. And I mean, in a way, it's odd because England's been a failed country for 70 years now. I remember back in the 70s when I was little, I would ask my dad, like, what's the deal with England? It just seems so poor and so unhappy. And he said, yeah, the British are tough, man. They just plow right through the bullshit. But he said, yeah, their economy has really sucked. They haven't recovered from World War II yet, which I thought was odd. But, I mean, okay. They're still rebuilding from World War II. I mean, we went and watched a movie called Tora, something like that when I was a kid. I thought, man, that's ancient history. What's going on in a lot of these countries is a reaction to, I think, Europe trying to be more civilized. And the idea that you can be civilized among a group of people who have absolutely no need for civilization whatsoever. Like they have absolutely no compunction about stealing, lying, grape, if you know what I mean, of women. It's like, wow. It's funny because one of the commenters just said it's a whole different civilization, but the reality is it's not a civilization. One of the hallmarks of civilization is you have to be civilized. The idea that you can honor kill your daughter for speaking to a man outside the family without permission and without somebody there to watch her, that's not civilized. The idea that you can commit genital mutilation on your daughter so that she can't enjoy sexual relationships because women are by default satanic little monsters that can't be trusted. They will always cheat on you if they have even the slightest amount of joy having sex. So just cut all that crap off so that they can't feel it, and then they'll be perfect for what God made them for, which is making babies. Which, of course, if you think about it, in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and unfortunately, I know for a fact Iraq and Palestine and Israel, the saying is that little boys are for fun and women are for making babies. I didn't make that up. That's not misinformation. There are thousands of my Marines who suffer from PTSD because they had to deal with these people. They had to deal with men that they knew had little boys as pleasure devices, and that they would have them dress up and put on makeup and dance for a group of men on certain nights. That's not civilization. That's not civilized. That's not like, that's just not, I refuse to accept that. That's not what we do in this culture. That's just not it. Like, that's that is as barbaric, as horrific as just unaliving these children. Some might argue that that would be better than abusing them in that way over and over and over again. Because we know what happens when somebody is abused. We know what happens when that abuse is sort of institutionalized. It destroys people's minds. You have an entire civilization, if you want to call it that, that agrees that that is okay. Where are the mothers? Where are the mothers? There are a lot of mothers in the United States that if I said, hey, this is my plan, I'm going to take your son and we're going to go do this, they would say, over my dead fucking body. And they would mean it. Like, you're going to have to kill me first. And so what is it about Islam that allows women to just, all right, well, my son's 8 now, it's time, so I guess you just go do that, and I'll just pretend like I don't know. Just pretend like you don't know. Yeah, I'll just pretend like I don't know. But you do. You do know. I mean, everybody knows that. We all saw the movie The Kite Runner, we all saw that movie. We all talked to friends of ours who came back. If you're a vet, talk to friends who said, oh yeah, it's everywhere. It's constant. And it is horrific. And it's something that when you see it, The Kite Runner was a movie, and it was about, I believe, a Pakistani boy who, unfortunately, that was something that he was forced to do. And he actually wrote a book about it that became a movie. I think it won an Academy Award, actually. Well, yeah, of course they grow up and do the same thing because that's what they're taught is normal. That's normal. Well, okay. Is it normal, though? Because I know that the Old Testament says that's a death sentence. Like, if you do that, but again, the problem is that I believe the way that it's worded. No, now that I think about it, it's worded very clearly that if you fool around with another man, you're done. That's off to the next life with you. Well, yeah, I mean, what choice do we have, man? We gotta, you gotta fight this. You can't just pretend, and I think about it, and it's like, there are so many, like tens of thousands of men in the United States who know about this, who understand this, who are like, it's gut wrenching to them to think about it. They try not to think about it. A lot of them smoke a lot of weed not to think about it. They drink way too much not to think about it. They end up taking they end up taking fentanyl so that they don't feel it. Doing heroin, anything they can to numb how insane and disgusted they feel. It's why we went from a few suicides to 11 suicides a day for veterans to 22. And now it's higher than that. The last time I did a fundraiser for veteran suicide prevention, it was 22. And I know that because I had to sit in a huge stock tank full of ice for 22 minutes, which was really interesting. I've never been, because hypothermia, obviously, like if you go into the North Sea or whatever, they say you'll be dead in minutes. Well, I know that's bullshit. I know that's not true because I sat in a huge stock tank full up to the brim with ice, not a little bit of ice and some warm water or some cheating bullshit. No, it was all ice. And I got in and mother of pearl, 22 minutes. And they almost didn't let me do it. The first time I tried, they actually pulled me out after 15 because my pulse was going so low. They said, nah, man, your blood pressure's dropping, your pulse is dropping. You got to get out. So the second time I went back in, and luckily I'd just gotten a little fatter. So, I made all 22 minutes like it was nothing. It's very strange. I felt very euphoric for the rest of the day, even though it was 110 degrees outside in Phoenix. I felt really good for the rest of the day. There's something, I don't know what it is, something about lowering your core temperature like that makes you feel very peaceful. I don't know why. Exactly. I was like a peace popsicle. But here's my point. We did it. We raised lots of money. They were hoping to raise $4,000 and we raised like $35,000 instead. And so it was awesome. We had the local news come and it was a really good thing. But we did it because 22 veterans every day unalive themselves. Now, is that because they were on a rooftop in someplace to crit or wherever, and they were firing a 50 into the side of a building, and what? No, that's all. No. Was it because the food was shitty and it was hot and nasty? No. Was it because they had to live in Quonset huts? No. The constant stress of being in combat? No. Absolutely not. Okay, then why do they feel this way? Why are 22 of them every day unaliving themselves? It's because of what they did see. And it wasn't something anybody should ever see. Improvised explosives. I mean, yeah, you see something blow up. I mean, I was in demolitions. I had a hell of a time up blowing stuff. I love blowing stuff up, like a little girl. No, that would ruin my life. That would completely destroy my life. But yeah, just a building or a bridge, of course. Now, a family of 6, because I didn't know there was somebody in the house when I blew it up, that would destroy my life. That could be the trigger. So those are the types of things that these guys had to go through. That's what they had to live through. Some of them had to deal with like the dancing boy issue, and then knowing that these men were doing this, they had to provide them with security. They had to provide them with Viagra. They had to provide them with thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash because of their position. They were warlords. Clearly, you got to take care of your guys, right? No matter what their personal habits are. the guys that you go out on patrol with, when they invite you to go out with them on Thursday night, and the guys in your platoon go, dude, don't do that. Don't go out with them. Do not go in town with them. I was like, why not? Because they're going to grape you. That's why. What? That's my terp, man. I don't have to worry about my interpreter. Yeah, you do. You really do. It's like, okay, this is the kind of stuff that, your natural instinct. I mean, imagine if you're a father and you walk in on this, which, by the way, a couple guys I know have had to deal with this. You walk in and this is what's going on around you. You're not allowed to react the way you think you should. You have to just ignore it. Go back outside. Wait for it to be done. Yeah. See, and that's the thing. Roadside bombs. Normally in combat, you expect that you're not going to survive. That's why I started smoking in the Marine Corps. We joked about it. I'm not going to get lung cancer, man. I'm dying. If I die of anything, it'll be lead poisoning, if you know what I mean. That's just the way it is. You're not going to survive this. If you do, it's just because God loves you a lot. But the idea that your buddies are going to get blown up, somebody you care about, you're going to lose. That's part of the game. That's part of it, man. But the idea that you're going to lose them over these guys, that you traded that fucking guy, that guy who was solid, that guy who was legit, who was a good Christian, who had a family, who's a good man, who never did anything bad to anybody in his life that didn't deserve it. And his life's over so that you can protect this motherfucker. That doesn't make sense to a lot of guys. That doesn't make sense. Like, that makes the world completely not make sense. And when you say PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, it's not a disorder. It's a perfectly logical way for a completely rational, completely intelligent mind to deal with something that's completely insane. This is the way the world is. It's like this. Well, yeah, but not right now. What do you mean? No, the world is like this now. What? No, it's like this. It's always like everything I've ever been taught is this. Yeah, but like, forget everything that you think is normal. Your new normal is actually insane. Okay, like how insane? Like, if you slip and fall on body parts, somebody's going to make a joke. You're going to laugh because it's all you can do. Because the scene that you're in is completely insane. It's completely impossible for a normal human being to even imagine what your reality is every day. Okay, so PTSD is a normal human being's way of adjusting to a completely insane reality. Yeah. And then you go back to this almost fake reality of everything's okay. Everything's fine. Life is so calm. It's so good. Everybody's good. It's like, wait, what? No, it's not. I've seen what the real world's like. Oh, no, that's not the real world. This is the real world. Okay. So the real world, if somebody gets injured in a traffic accident, it's on the news because it's crazy. Like, oh my God, you're not supposed to get hurt riding your bike. It's going to make the 6 o'clock news. Where you were 6 months ago? If 30 people get blown up at a wedding, that's not going to make the news because it's just not a big fucking deal. No one cares. But this bike accident, nobody even died. Nobody lost a limb. No, nothing. Concussion, a couple stitches maybe. That made the news. But what about? Whoa, this doesn't make any sense, and that's the problem. So, post-traumatic stress reality is actually, in my opinion, it's a sign of sanity. You know, because you got to really be kind of fucking crazy to go through that and not have it affect you. If it doesn't affect you at all, it's you kind of might be a little bit of a sociopath. It's very possible. Like a lost cat? I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I'm not much of a cat person. I like cats well enough. Thin sliced, medium rare, they are awesome. I'm just kidding. I don't eat cats much. So it's just not, it's not a thing. They're chewy. I do love dogs though. Nobody should eat dogs. Full stop. Period. Don't eat dogs. I don't care where you're from. And yes, I did spend a lot of time overseas. I wondered why they called it chow. Yeah, you know what? I've had cats. I'm not a big cat guy. I mean, I'm a big guy, but I'm not a big cat guy. Just because, the difference between cats and dogs is dogs look at you like you're God because, you provide for them, you love them, take care of them. Cats look at themselves in the mirror like they must be God because you worship them. You do everything they want when they want. So that's the difference. But I do understand why women tend to be cat people and men tend to be dog people. It's really interesting, the psychology there, but I'm not going to go into that tonight because that's just crazy. That's true. That's true. Now, I did see something that was very interesting. Somebody once pointed out that the police don't ever use drug sniffing cats. So, yeah, cat's never going to turn you in. But a dog, yeah. If you're a fuck up, watch out. They may come after you. That's true. That's true. Cats really do act like, hey, I'm just doing you a favor, man. Clearly without me, you'd be nothing. So I'll hang out here. Unless, of course, the neighbor gets wet cat food, then you can go fuck yourself with your 9 lives. It's just the way they are. Yeah. Oh, well. It is what it is. All right. Well, I think we're up to speed. Don't buy anything. Don't do any investing this weekend. Certainly don't buy any real estate over the weekend. Don't buy real estate, period, right now. Just wait. The prices are coming down really fast now. Like momentum has begun to really shift. So it's going to be an ugly, ugly year end for real estate. And, the market could have a couple more percent of rise left before it absolutely tanks and drops by. I'm going to say it. No, I'm not going to say it. Not yet. My gut instinct, which is based on numbers, so it's not really an instinct. It's more like I can add. But we might have a little bit left to climb before we tank and head down by between 50 and 60% as a stock market. And then once we bottom out, we'll start to climb back out of it, but it'll take a good 10 months for us to get to the bottom. So between now and, let's see, it's May. I think that this win with the war, because we won again today, apparently. We win every day. The war's over. Every day, just anew. It's over. It's like Groundhog Day. But if we can actually keep our fat out of the fire and this war really is over, the amount of damage that's been done to the world economy is irreversible. It is catastrophic, cataclysmic. Nobody really knows how bad it's going to be, but it's going to be fucking awful. Absolutely awful. China and Japan probably suffer the worst, maybe Indonesia a little bit behind them. But it's going to be horrific. The EU may not survive this. But the United States is definitely going to be, we're going to be on paper ahead of the game because we're going to have lots and lots of oil to sell. We're going to sell lots of oil. Everything's going to look great from the standpoint of GDP. Whoa, look at us go. We're growing like crazy. The reality is that oil prices are going to stay very high because we have to literally compete with everybody else in the world for oil now. Even though it's sitting in our backyard, it doesn't mean it's ours. Remember, Shell just announced today that they beat their corporate earnings record again this quarter, just like British Petroleum did 2 weeks ago. Highest profits they've ever posted, ever. Well, there's supposed to be an oil crisis. It's a crisis for you. It's a crisis for companies that need oil. But for oil companies, no. They never suffer. They never suffer. Oil goes up, oil goes down. They just ride the wave, baby. They never, ever pay the price. So it's going to be a rough fucking year. I can tell you that. It's going to be a rough year. We're going to have to change something, and it's not going to change easily. It's not going to change quickly enough. So, if you got a scooter, that's good. Electric scooter is good. But the problem is, Bob, that you go tell somebody that, because the reality is they don't care. Royal Dutch Shell, British Petroleum, they don't care. Standard Oil, it's like, hey, that's their oil. They're the ones having to extract it out of the ground. So they're the ones that are going to be paying $14, $15, $18 to get it out of the ground. They'll then be able to write down the well depletion of $18. So they'll never pay taxes on the natural resource of the United States that they're taking out of the ground. Not only do they steal our fucking resources, they don't even pay taxes on them. Yeah, welcome to the real world. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. It's never going to change, period. Look, Kennedy wanted to get rid of the oil depletion tax, and he wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve and the CIA. Look what happened to him. Those are all great ideas. Those three things alone, and then if you kicked in no more lobbyists in Washington, D.C. under any circumstances, that would fix 90% of the problems in the United States. Just like that. Over the course of the following 18 months, you'd be shocked, fucking shocked at how fast our economy got strong again. Getting rid of the Fed, what does that mean? Well, that means we have to go back on a gold-based system. Well, that's stupid. We don't have enough gold for that. Oh, yes, we do. We have enough gold. We have 261 million ounces, valued at $50,000 an ounce. Well, you can't just do that. Yeah, you fucking can. It says so in the Constitution. United States Congress has the power to set the price of precious metals for this country and for foreign coinage as well. What does that mean? That means that over in Germany, you could say that one Deutschmark equals $1. But when you bring that Deutschmark over here, we say you need 3 of them to make $1. And since it's our country, that's what it takes, period. Doesn't matter what you say your currency's worth in your country. We're not in your country. When we are, yeah, we have to honor the way that you want to divide up money. But here, we get to make the decisions. Isn't that crazy? Most people don't know that. So we say $50,000 an ounce. Boom. National debt is almost completely absolved right there, because the debt is based on the fact that we have no money to back up what we've borrowed. Well, now we actually have the asset behind it. So they zero each other out. Maybe we still have a few $1 trillion, but okay, we're back to the 1980 levels. Here's the problem. Congress says, you know what? Let's go have another bullshit war. Where are you going to get the money? Well, just print some more. No, that's not how it works. What do you mean that's not how it works? Well, you have to have the gold. Well, we have gold. No, you have 261 million ounces of gold, and it's accounted for. Every dollar that can be printed based on that level has been printed. So go get some more gold. Or stop spending the money somewhere else and redivert it to this. But you can't just make more money. There's only a certain amount. Well, that would mean the end of war. Wow. Endless wars? Nope. No more endless wars. Could we do it? Easily. We could convert from this bullshit right back to what it used to be. Silver and gold notes that were literally, you could walk into a bank and you could say, here are my $2. I'd like $2 in silver, please. Okay. Silver certificates. There you go. Here's your $2 in silver. Well, silver is obviously going to go $150 to $300 an ounce by the end of the year. And that's just because we're talking about lowering rates and printing more money out of our ass again. Every time we do that, it goes up, and not just in line with inflation. Well, I talked about this at the beginning. Right now, if you had $1 million in 1970, the equivalent would be $8.4 million today. That's inflation. If you had $1 million in silver at $1.57 in 1970, it would be worth $45 million today. That's not just keeping up with inflation. That's killing it, man. That's killing it. That's way different. So you might want to call me. I just might have some silver laying around and do some business. But that's the reality of it right there, is that we're not just keeping up with inflation with silver. You know, cost was it 13,800 ounces of silver to buy the average home in the year 2000, and now it's down to 8,000. Oh, wait a minute. Shouldn't it be 13,000 then and 13,000 now? Because back then it was $189,000 for the average house, and now it's 405,000. So it's just about doubled. So wouldn't another asset like silver just about double? Not even close. Silver's gone up. It was 4, and now it's 80. It's gone up much faster than housing. But real estate's the best asset you can get. Well, clearly it's not. Clearly it's not. Because 13,800 ounces 26 years ago, and that's for a brand new home then. Brand new home now, it's only 8,000 ounces. So houses have gotten a lot cheaper over the last 26 years. Yeah. More effective building materials. They put them up faster. They're not as good. They're not as well made. They're on much smaller lots. I mean, on and on and on. And more than anything else, the reason that they're 405,000 instead of 189 is because we just keep printing billions and billions and billions of these an hour. Billions of these things. Just give them out to everybody. And they're worthless now. That's the way it works. So you guys have a great weekend. I will see you on Sunday. Sunday night, when the market opens, when Globex decides it's time to start trading again, we will kick some Globex ass.